can say? Can you come up with something else? Can you come up with something else?
Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, as you guys can probably tell by the title of this video, I'm just testing out Laika. If this gear looks familiar, it's because it is, my Conqueror Lilias gear that I just stole or like borrowed for a bit. Yeah, I'm just trying her out because she's one of the meta openers currently because, Guiding Light is OP. But there are some like key differences from her and Conqueror Lilias, and I'll explain that later into this video. But anyway, if you like my content, please like and subscribe, and let's get into the RTA games. So as I said, there's a few differences between Laika and Conqueror Lilias that I just want to get into. First of all is that Laika's kind of like a Faithless Lidica in the fact that it's really hard to stop her from getting a turn unless you are like a cash gamer with a faster Lua or like a faster Conqueror Lilias, because Guiding Light is just super busted. And unlike Conqueror Lilias, you can give her really junky gear because Guiding Light, again, is really broken. Like, she doesn't really need other stats other than speed. Like, sure, bulk and effectiveness is nice, but you don't need it. Like, it's like Payra. Like, you can obviously give her really good gear, but she functions just fine as long as she's fast. But yeah, I'm just testing Laika out because a lot of people, like especially when I was filming content for previous videos, started to pre-ban Conqueror Lilias. And since I only have one really nice set of speed gear, my drafts kind of tend to revolve around them. So if they're pre-banned or like highly contested, it kind of sucks for me. But yeah, we're just testing it out. Like, I've seen a few people try and use Laika to pretty good success. So I just want to see how it is. Like, she's pretty Zeo proof, so I can now ban something else. And another benefit about Laika is that her S2 lets her be really aggressive. You pair her with like Strays, Roy, and as always, you can always use her to shield your other speed units. Since, like, again, like I explain this a lot in a lot of my videos, but if you pick a speed unit first, like with confidence, most people, unless they're cleavers, will not try to contest you. Like, so standard players generally don't like to pick speed into like a Laika pick. So what you do is like you model the draft in a way that lets you pick like more mid-speed units. Like, for example, my Lidica is more mid-speed, and I can just pick that because I don't really care about the speed units on my opponent's team. My opponent picks pretty interestingly here. I'm either banning mitigation like an ape, or I'm banning Elena because of all the AoE attack skills. And I just decided to just ban mitigation like an ape because why not, It's good to limit test. Another one of the differences between Laika and Conqueror Lilias is that Conqueror Lilias is really flexible. Like, as you guys all know, like Conqueror Lilias, they can race, they can play standard, like not super well, but like they can be used to pivot. But Laika's really inflexible in that sense. If you don't get high value turn 1 with her S2 or either her S3 sleep, you'll find that she falls behind Conqueror Lilias a lot, but it's just something to get used to. Unfortunately, my Mustang does miss on Elena, but I don't think it matters too much. We're going to ER check this Aria right here. My Faithless Lidica is at 100 effectiveness, so it should be a little bit more than the average Aria ER, which is at around like 130, 150. And luckily we do get it. And so I'm contemplating going into Elena or Aria here, but I think if I just kill Aria, this game should be donezo because Stenny should not survive my S3 from Roy. And what do you know? We luckily get that hit. And I decide not to S3 here just because of the threat I'm kind of feeling from Elena. Because Elena does mitigate a lot of damage. So there's that. And now we just kind of have to wait. And I'm pretty sure my opponent is going to try and stun my Roy so he can't S3 next turn, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yes, and that is something I've noticed though, is that you don't really get to S3 with Laika a lot because there's a lot of like anti-AoE tech. For example, there's like Laika's actually pretty good into Edward because either S3 misses or you put him to sleep and it doesn't matter. But she's bad into Designer a little bit, Elena, Eternus DJB, where like them cutting you actually matters. But I think the strongest part of her kit is that she is really hard to deny. Like Peyra and Ran, like if you outspeed them with Acid, they just kind of die. But Laika requires a very specific set of units to outspeed her. And a lot of the units that outspeed her are slower than Laika herself. Like Conqueror Lilias and Lua are slower than Laika, even though it's only by like 1 or 2 speed. She's significantly faster than Faithless Lidica. And yeah, my opponent honestly, I think misplayed. Like I think they should have gone for the stun onto Roy and then tried to ride it out. But I think with Roy's damage reduction passive and the immunity he got from Laika eventually would have made it very difficult for him to kill him off. So I don't blame my opponent for losing. But yeah, I've gotten really into like Roy aggro, quote unquote. So I think I'm liking Laika a bit more than Conqueror Lilias, to be quite honest, because I find to Roy cleave with Conqueror Lilias, you need another book holder. And if Stenny is banned, you're forced to pick like Sylvan Sage Vivian, which invites in like whatchamacallit? Which invites in, what's that girl? Solitaria, the really annoying stun bot unit. Disgusting. Anyway, moving on to the next match. I'm just like experimenting a bit here. Like I don't want to first pick Laika every time, because one of the things you need to know about RTA is if you want the most success climbing RTA, you should play often. And I'll explain what I mean in a moment. So when you play a lot of RTA games like I do, you get a lot of experience in the matchups. Like the reason I'm trying Laika out now and not like 2 days before end of season is that I'm not too sure how Laika works, because I've only watched her play and I've never actually used her myself. And by playing a lot of games, you kind of get a sense of like what you lose to, and you can like adapt your drafts or like build new units or like gear something else or like play differently, which you can't really do if you just plop a unit and just go like good luck, you know. My opponent picks Pavel here, rare unit, but I just ban the speed imprint because I assume my opponent's gonna do the same thing. But yeah, that's what I'm doing, because if I notice people are banning Conqueror Lilias too much on last day, I can just pick Laika and just pick off where I left off. And that's one of my advice for climbing RTA. If you're trying to hit a certain rank, I would recommend that you play a lot. Or like, not, you don't have to play a lot, but you should like play consistently during the season. I wanted to S2 here, but I can't because of Paltes, so I'm just S3ing like, oh, thank God we got the sleep chance. It's like Sage ugly. It's only like 85%, even with the E, it's kind of bad. But whatever. I can just S3 the Pavel and move on with my life, so everything's good. Ran had to skip his turn. I'm pretty sure Paltes doesn't kill my Stenny, so I can continue rambling. But a lot of people, especially on like Reddit, say that you can just climb last 2 weeks if you just spam games. And there are people who do that, especially like Asia whales, but they just gear gap people to the top with their like speed gear or whatever. If you're on more average gear with more average unit pool, I recommend that you actually play more games, because the experience in matchups actually gives you a lot of leverage and it allows you to cheese certain picks. Like my Faithless Lidica's, for example, like my Faithless Lidica's not that fast, but I pick her like she's fast. And you kind of get a sense of like who you can do this against and who you can't. So, like for example, if my opponent is picking a bunch of speed imprints, like I probably won't pick my Faithless Lidica. But if they first pick like hand guy Aria, it's like that's a match where I can threaten speed. And it's like that kind of like game sense that really helps you win games over the long run. But yeah, that's like a little pro tip if you're ever deciding to climb the ladder. Like I think Emperor is like very doable for many people. It's just you have to prepare to play like a billion fucking games. Like I personally never go over 800 games anymore, but I know people that play like 1,000, 2,000 games. And if the border really means that much to you and you don't mind putting in the time, like go for it. But like be warned, the volume of games and the mental fortitude you need, oof. Those guys are like mental of steel, I swear to God. But yeah, my opponent here, oh, look at that. It's hand guy Aras. Very, very boring. Very, very regular standard. And I'm here to punish that with my speedy picks. I do want to say too that Laika is just, I think she's a bit more fun than Conqueror Lilias because she's punished a bit less, in my opinion. Like, if you pick Laika, like, nobody's gonna try to Zeo cleave you because they're not crazy. Just Guiding Light. Like, if they ever made Guiding Light for another class, they would literally break the game. Like, if Guiding Light would never be released in today's meta, or like never get buffed in today's meta, because it just warps the meta in such a gross way. But what can you do? I do not design this game, so I'm forced to endure whatever happens. My opponent here actually picks too many low damage units. Like, Hand Guy does some damage, yes, but like not enough to threaten APOC. Aras doesn't do damage. AOL doesn't do damage. Hyafin does do damage depending on the build, but a lot of them are built at like 270, so their damage is pretty negligible. So I'm free to just ban Archdemon and have APOC Soulless team in like Frenzy 10. And that's one of the reasons I'm trying to get a Dark Corvus is because Dark Corvus punishes teams like this incredibly hard because of his nature to just slowly grind down no damage teams. So you put them in a situation where, like, if it's like a Laika cleave and you last pick Dark Corvus, they can take the threat of their like 1 or 2 important DPS units dying and then Dark Corvus soloing your entire team, or banning Dark Corvus and letting the other 2 DPS just run uncontested, which is a really like interesting tech. Like, I never thought Dark Corvus would be used in this manner in RTA, but like, you know, hey, I'm into it. I always love punishing standard players, so like new tools to punish standard players, like, we love. But yeah, I delete AOL because Guiding Light is nice and I want to stay in Guiding Light. But from here, I don't think Hyafin does enough damage to actually threaten my team in any significant way. Especially since she didn't get the Hand Guy attack buff before her S3. Like, it only did like 5k to Stenny, and my Stenny is like pretty paper, I'm not gonna lie. So this doesn't look too hot for my opponent, but you know, I respect my opponent for sticking it out. Luckily, my Lidica does land her S2 and I'm able to strip the attack buff, so the Hyafin does even less damage than before somehow. But yeah, I think I will be doing another big regear of my account. Like, I've done this like 4 times this season, like, so annoying. But basically, I have like 100k hunting mats left, and I just need to really get through the crafting and upgrade some of my DPS units and make my account a bit more aggressive, I think, is the play. But so stay in tune for that. If you want to watch me craft gear, please let me know. But like, I'm still like hesitant because, like, I don't know, like, do people find that interesting? Like, I personally hate gear crafting, and that's why I spent like a solid 4 months last year where I didn't farm a hunt once, because I was like, gear crafting hurts my brain, I'm too stupid for it, I just want to slam my units down in RTA and win, you know. But I'm kind of regretting that now, but what can you do? But that's one of the reasons why I'm not going for a legend finish. Like, my issue is that legend players just outgear me in general, and other than that, I'm just not too happy with my pool of units. Like, my problem is that I have a few units geared really well. Like, my Conqueror Lilias or Laika, like, their gear is competitive in legend. Like, I would not feel uncomfortable slamming them first against legend players. My issue is that since I only have like such limited gear when it comes to like high quality speed gear or high quality DPS gear, I have very limited options, and that ends up hurting you a lot in legend, because legend players like Mace or other legend player have a lot of options geared to like the legend level. So when they either pick that or they pick perfect counters, I have a really hard time pivoting out or contesting them in other meaningful ways. So like for example, if they ban Laika or Conqueror Lilias, my next fastest unit isn't that fast, or it's like on Acid, which isn't like a meta speed contester, so I'm not too like happy to pick them in that way. But other legend players like Mace has like a 314 Lua. He has like a cash Conqueror Lilias. He probably has a cash Ran. He probably has a cash Laika, you know what I mean? So I'm just like at a disadvantage. And I feel one thing that people go wrong with in Epic 7 is that they don't live within their means. And what I mean by that is that they don't set realistic goals for themselves. And for me personally, I feel that currently a legend finisher is not in a realistic realm for me. Unless I play like 3,000 games, but like you couldn't pay me to play 3,000 games. Like, oh god. I'm at around 700? 800 games? I'll have to check. We'll check in the next end screen, but it's not that much. But I definitely feel like I'm getting there. Like I only need a few more things. I ideally would like another 310 opener. Other than Conqueror Lilias, I would need a few more better geared DPS units, and I'd like to get a few more MLs that I'm missing. Like a few noticeable ones are Astromancer Elena, Lionheart Zermia, and I'd like to gear some of my units better, but like that's like everything. Anyway, into this match, Laika just facilitates really aggressive drafts, and that's basically what you're seeing. And you're seeing this special tech of my Aras. He's 255 speed with really good effectiveness, and he's just there to enable aggressive drafts like this, where you can just continuously S2 into the enemy DPS units. I was kind of hoping for a defense break here so I could one-shot this APOC, but you know, you can't always get what you want. I think one of the benefits of Roy too is that he's not hindered too much by water units because he gets a lot of free hit chance, but it's bad in the sense that units like SSB or Karina counter him really hard, but other than that, it's like not too bad. But he really cannot get hit by water units because his damage falls off the cliff without his special buff that gives him attack and hit chance, and it makes his S1 like penetrate 50% defense, so it's like pretty important. Unfortunately, Ruel does get to rest something here, which is really annoying, but I think it's fine. We get to finally press Laika S3 in a meaningful way other than just to place immunity for the first time in like 20 minutes, so that's pretty nice. And luckily she does land everything, and I think this is one of the strongest parts about Laika. Like, I just run it into Rem here because I don't want my Roy to wake anybody up. We luckily strip invincibility through evasion, and we're free to start soul burning Stenny now. I can't soul burn, but like I'm free to just start like running into his DPS units now. And yeah, and this speed down debuff is really annoying too. Oh, but speaking of, one of the worst things about Roy is that Laika is that she doesn't strip. Like, she's like oddly balanced but broken in like multiple ways, but one of the ways that she's like very balanced is that her S3 doesn't strip. If her S3 stripped, I think she would be a lot more broken. Low-key, if she came out during like the Peyra Ran era, she probably would have stripped with her S3. Did she come out during that era? She might have, but like I guess SG just were on their like good balance pills. But she's unbalanced in the sense that Guiding Light is unbalanced and she's fast, but she's faster than other Guiding Lighters or other speed contesters by like 2 speed, but still. And something I've noticed about Laika that I like a lot is that if they pick like a DPS Politis or DPS Celine, you could just S2 them with Laika and they die, and you're like, great, nothing happened. They had a dead pick and you win, you know? And she doesn't invite in Lionheart Zermia picks, so Stenny picks are safer, which is something else that I like. But yeah, I'll stop rambling. I'll try to commentate these games a little bit more. I realize I wasn't doing a great job of commentating, but whoops. But basically, this guy, Juicy Karage, like, I love the food, but I hate this player. He's so annoying. Not to roast him, like, I don't hate him, but his playstyle is really annoying. So let me tell you how his units are built. So this Celine's like blazing fast, super fast on Secret Art Storm Sword, and this Aria super fast on Book. And what he likes to do against me, or like he used to before I made a bunch of high speed units, is that he would pick ML Celine, this fast Aria plus another Book, and then C-Pav will cleave you because you wouldn't expect his units to be like 290 and like double crit you. But that's okay. I think I'm still fine here. My opponent pivots here because he realizes that this is not the best time to actually try to C-Pav will cleave me because my units are too aggressive and too fast for him to comfortably do it. And it's going to be a little bit sus though, because I need to kill this ML Celine because I don't really have a good way to deal with it. And I also need a way to get rid of this Aria because Aria does have a potential to solo me. My opponent picked Zio here, which I think was a giant mistake because like half of my units are in stealth and don't care. And then the other half of his units don't do enough damage except for ML Celine to actually kill the Hawk, so I still don't care. Yeah, like Zio goes first, which is like, oh, like, ooh, wow, Zio grabbing first turn, ML cash unit, whatever. And there's a Hawk 15% the pushback, which does matter, I think, in the long term, but you know, we'll take it.
Do something!
I'm now able to just push up with my Lidica, and judging by this damage on this ML Celine, I actually don't think it matters because it does so much damage that it would let me kill this ML Celine with a Specter Tenebria S1, which would let me S3 the Aria and kill her off. So we get revenge on this guy for cleaving me a bunch of times, and it's just justice. I think, I don't know, but I really hate to say it, but rolling speed has really helped the progression of my account because rolling speed helps your account progression in like very different ways. Because Epic 7 is like really centered around gear and improving gear. If you roll a new maximum speed piece of gear, the old speed piece you were using can just go to someone else. So your account in general just gets really advanced. So like what I mean is like my Pera's leftovers would just go to my Conqueror Lilias. So as my Pera got faster, my Conqueror Lilias did too because she got all the hand-me-downs. And that's pretty busted. Like, it's not busted, but it's like, it feels really good because if you roll like a good DPS piece, you kind of have to like think about like how does this fit into like my other DPS pieces? Like, do I get enough attack? Like, do I cap out on crit chance? Am I getting the right sets? But with speed gear, like offsets are fine, especially on units like Pera, Guiding Light openers, where bulk is like whatever, effectiveness is like honestly kind of whatever. My opponent here is picking, I think they're trying to what's that thing called? Zio cleave me because they're picking Aiden and Zio. So you guys know the popular stealth draft to counter Zio. So basically what Zio cleavers do is that they just pick that cleave themselves and they try to cleave you back with it. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Like, I'm pretty sure my opponent's going to pick General Purgus here. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. But basically they do this because they need like, oh, I sound so intelligent. But basically it's kind of like an anchor for their cleave, like, because my openers technically need to hit someone and I still can hit Zio, so like I don't think it's the best use of my opponent's picks. But I'm pretty confident in this draft. I'm thinking that since Aria is here, I don't need to worry about Kayron, and I can just ban last because as long as I'm able to kill this Savior Aiden with the target debuff and the dual attack from Laika, I should be fine. Because this might be a degen Kayron, but as you know, like Aria is a high def unit. She's able to protect the rest of my team, so I'm not too like worried or afraid about anything. So let's get it. My opponent picks Violet here, which I think is a really odd ban, but I just ban it in case he bans Specter Tenebria, because he's another Gamba unit that I don't really feel like dealing with right now, because my tanks aren't too tanky if I get unlucky. Like Rylet, my Rylet's really tanky, but you know, like if he doesn't dodge, like the bulk doesn't mean too much, to be honest. So my opponent does go first here. He's on book, so I'm thinking that he's probably not like super high effectiveness, if at all. So I'm like praying that my Aria is able to resist. But honestly, it shouldn't matter too much because I have soul burn and I'm always able to soul burn and just get the S3 back. My Laika gets her target resisted, but you know, Aiden, evasion units, like nice meme. And I go for the kill onto Zio here. And with the attack buff and pen set, we're able to just go for it. And I make a big mistake here. I think I should have procced Kayron here with Rylet and then gone for the S3 onto Aria. But at the time of writing, I was really confident in my Aria's ability to soul this game. And that's what she's gonna do, right? Right? Oh, this is such ugly foreshadowing. I was so confident when this was happening too. I was like, yeah, hit me, dude. Hit me. What are you gonna do? Solo my team with this Kayron when I have Aria? Nah, B. This ain't happening. And another thing that's good too is that Aria strips with her S2. So I was thinking like maybe I'll get lucky and I'll strip the immortality, but of course like MLDB, like fucking annoying. I go for the Laika S3 just for immunity, so my Aria doesn't get blinded. Honestly, I don't think it matters, but here we go. The Kayron show basically hits my Aria, whatever, it should be fine. Laika cuts a billion times because she's 5,000 speed. Oh! Another counter where he crits my evasion unit, he crits my water unit, another counter attack where again he crits my whole team, and I'm just like, what is this? What is this? And my opponent emotes me because it's like such a ridiculous situation. But man, it's losses like these that feel so bad. But you know, whatever. I rob people. So like, I'll take these L's. It's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind. Me when I cope. But it's okay. We're limit testing, and I have the experience now to know if I'm ever in that situation again, just S3 the fucking Kayron. Just proc it. Just proc it so your Aria can take the Kayron S3 and win. So even though my opponent did RNG me quite hard, I can't be too mad because I did outplay. I did misplay there. So my opponent picks really tank down. I just didn't want to pick Laika first because I didn't feel like it, but now I feel like it. So I pick it. And we go for 2 aggressive picks that are also immunity setters. Excuse me. And I'm feeling pretty good about this draft. I say that about every draft though, so like I don't really know about this one. So my opponent picks Politis. I don't know why, but at the time I was like, oh, this is the degen Politis. I can feel it, I can sense it, but I'm pretty sure that was kind of a ambitious sell because my opponent picked really tanky, so them picking a DPS Politis wouldn't make too much sense. So I'm not too sure why I picked Roy like so confidently that he was like I could one-shot them without the escort from Airwell. But yes, my team looks pretty well equipped to handle his team, to be honest. So I'm not too worried because Landy does not do too well into my team just because Roy exists, and Roy can be protected even further by like Aria, or like the immense amount of damage that just comes out. I'm not too scared of this Mercedes either, so just ban mitigation like an ape. And we are just praying that this is a DPS Politis, even though his draft does not suggest that in any way, shape, or form. But I think that's one of the biggest strengths about Laika 2 is that she can always like pass turn 1. She doesn't need to whatchamacallit. She doesn't need to S3. She really doesn't need to S2. Because if your team outspeeds the rest of the opponent team, it doesn't mean anything. So there's that too. Unluckily, it does look like a DPS Politis. So I kind of have to just cut my losses at 1 S3 because if I get Magic for Friends, Roy's gonna die because of the passive, and I just kind of need to get out of there. That was kind of weird though. That was like a slow speed Omega damage Politis, which I was not expecting. Unluckily, my Stenny and Roy die to the soul-burned T-Cern S3, but I don't think it matters too much because my opponent can't actually kill my Aria because she's tanky. Like, this Mercedes isn't gonna do too much to Aria, and she's not gonna strip either. But Aria does a lot of damage to them, and I don't think T-Cern can break through because her damage just isn't that good. And look at that, we're right, and we're able to see this fantastic Aria S2 animations. It's one of my favorite animations in the game actually, which is why I wanted to build her so bad. But we're able to clinch out a win with that Aria last pick. So I think I'm going to test Laika as my speed opener a lot because it lets me use a lot of my anchors that I have built. Like, I built a lot of anchors that I don't use a lot with Conqueror Lilias, like Violet, Aria, Celine, these like 1v4 type of tank units. Not tank units, but solo carry units. But yeah, that's it for me. As always, I'd like to thank you if you've watched this video this far. I really appreciate everyone that leaves a comment or like honestly just watches to the end. And thank you for supporting me, and I'll see you next time. See ya!